Going to order?
Yeah. Isn't that part of it?
Yeah, man, I just wanted to start.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming. We're going to call the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees meeting called to order. Staff or trustees have any additions or deletions for the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have, staff does not have any additions or deletions, but we do have a request.
Yes, sir.
Staff would like to request that item 1 under new business be addressed first. Cynthia has family here, some who have to travel, so we would like to do that presentation as quick as possible in the meeting, if that's okay with the trustees.
That's something we need to make a motion for.
I'll make a motion to to adopt the agenda with the change of moving item 1 next.
All right. Got a motion?
Second.
Oh, and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah. So that means we've adopted the agenda?
Yep.
All right. Let's go on ahead and so we can go straight to that one right now, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I just want to make sure. So the first order of business before we do public comment is to request to approve Lakeshore Hospital Authority Resolution number 2023, resolution of the Board of Trustees, Lakeshore Hospital Authority, Columbia County, Florida, acknowledging Cynthia A. Watson on her retirement. Mr. Dale?
And Mr. Chairman, we have a framed resolution to be read and presented to Cynthia. Would you like to read it?
A dear friend of Cynthia, I think you should read it.
Okay, all right, well, come forward, Cynthia.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to read it through the plastic where it'll protect it, okay? On behalf of the Board of Trustees, this is resolution number 2023-003. It's a resolution of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority honoring Cynthia Watson for her many years of dedicated service to the citizens of Columbia County, Florida, and the Lakeshore Hospital Authority. Whereas Cynthia Watson was employed by the Lakeshore Hospital Authority on November 16th, 2009 as a financial assistance counselor, and whereas Cynthia has a long and appreciated relationship with the Lakeshore Hospital Authority trustees, staff, and clients who one and all are appreciative of the contributions made by Cynthia in promoting the needs and benefits of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority to Columbia County's qualified citizens. And whereas Cynthia has served the Lakeshore Hospital Authority for 14 years and has made the decision to retire on December 29th, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that the Lakeshore Hospital Authority, on behalf of past, present, and future clients of the authority and the citizens of Columbia County, do hereby recognize Cynthia Watson for her many accomplishments and tireless efforts to promote good health for all. Unanimously passed and adopted at a meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Lakeshore Hospital Authority of Columbia County, Florida, this 11th day of December, 2023. Mr. Chairman, we will need an appropriate motion, second, and approval, and you can come up and present this resolution with the other trustees to Cynthia.
We'll do that. Before we make a motion, are there any comments or discussion? Just make sure this is gonna pass.
I would like to know if it's possible that we maybe schedule about 3 or 4 special meetings between now and December 29th.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to approve Lakeshore Hospital Authority Resolution number 2023-003.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on up. We need a photo opportunity.
Would you do that? Get the
Yeah.
photo, please?
Let's do everything.
I'm so good at this. So what we did is this is the official. Here's both fold. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
What we can do, you want to see the photo?
It's in front of
I'm trying. There we go. How about that?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, she's done it. Thank you.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Yes, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. All right, let's move on to public comments. And let's see, I'm just gonna do them on the order they got. I've got 3 for tonight. Mr. Tim Atkinson.
Thank you. I'm glad I was here for this meeting,
Thank you.
historic occasion, and I'm glad I got to meet Cynthia before December the 29th. Thanks for letting somebody on the back pew come forward and share a few thoughts with you. I want to share a couple of quotations that I hope will be relevant and might be useful. I'm going to have to quote it from memory because I left my cheat sheet. The first is from the Old Testament, Proverbs. Without a vision, the people perish. Fast forward several thousand years to last week, when I broke open a fortune cookie from Red Ginger, and it read, the odds of one hitting the target increase dramatically when they can see the target and shoot at it. I'm suggesting that you all take the time to review your target. Perhaps you recalibrate your aim and make a few fundamental decisions about what to do short term. I'm talking about some long strategic planning process. In fact, that's already been done. The Wellness Florida Agency, the Health Planning Council for this part of North Florida, has completed and posted its health needs assessment for Columbia County. It just posted in August. So you've got a document that is up to date and current. You won't be using statistics that are 4 or 5 years old. It's a brand new document. And I would suggest that you take a look at that document, perhaps have a workshop of half a day and not talk about buildings necessarily, and talk only about what you all want to do to meet the needs in Columbia County, which needs you're going to meet, how you're going to meet them, and just focus the next 12 months on those needs. I further suggest that that you not put out any more RFPs, that you not evaluate any more unsolicited proposals until you have those new objectives in mind and on a piece of paper. It probably won't take one sheet of paper to do it. Wellness Florida was here several years ago, and you were the only one here at the time, I think, and created a plan called the strategic plan, the one you still have on file. And one of the statements in that plan said that everything the authority does needs to be tied back directly to the indigent healthcare and medically underserved. So I wish you well with that. I hope that you'll be able to take the time to kind of re-examine and recalibrate and then move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next up, we have Ms. Lemley.
I'd like to be allowed to speak on the discussion possible action
I'll get you up there so I want to make you famous.
right here.
And everybody wants to see that shirt.
Yes. I want to withhold any comments until we discuss and possible action in connection with
That's
the
the
women's
next thing.
center. I don't want to discuss it now because I don't know what you guys are gonna say.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We have an agenda and under the agenda is public comments.
Mhm.
I would prefer that we take the public comments before we do anything else on the agenda.
We'll take them all, okay? Well,
I don't know how my fellow colleagues feel about that, but I do.
That's what it is.
Why don't we ask Mr. Kinnon what the protocol can be?
It would be whatever the board decided.
so what now?
Said it would be whatever the board decided. But if there's obviously, if there's a motion made, then you have to allow public input after the motion. But
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we follow the agenda and keep the public comments before any items on the agenda. Follow the agenda, and that's what public comments, the purpose of public comments are for. I think we all have a pen and a piece of paper and we take notes from the public comments. I'd like to make that a motion.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it for discussion. Dale, is there anything in here on is there any backup material on the Women's Center?
No, I was gonna give a verbal report.
Will there be any action taken on the Women's Center tonight?
No, that is a direct result of the question or the comment that was made at the last meeting where one of the trustees, several of the trustees wanted an update as to what potential uses had been considering it. So I was just going to give it verbally.
So there won't be any action taken on,
But then why does it say discussion and possible action? Why does it say discussion?
I may be able to help if there is no motion made, then there'd be no additional public comment. If a motion is made on that topic, then you must allow comment after that motion is made and seconded. So if no motion is made, there won't be opportunity for comment.
Okay, fine.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Linda.
Mr. Chair, I don't know where in this gets understood that, but somebody just chatted to me that he's trying to raise his hand and he can't figure out how to do that. So you've got somebody that wants to speak, then I'll say.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, for the record, I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
all righty. I'm gonna move on down the list and, I do not see a hand raised online.
Well, he said he's been trying to raise his hand, but he can't, figure out how to get it to work or something.
Hmm.
This is the last one on the list.
Okay, we'll, did we just unmute that one?
Yep.
Okay, let's go through then for the folks listening online. We have two more comments here and then we'll go to the, we'll go to the last person here online. So I'll call it next, Miss Joy Stevens.
Hello, thank you. I'm here once again, and I wrote something. I just want to say, let me start by saying thank you, for you guys all to allow me here once again. You do not know the courage it took to come here last time and stand up in front of the board and speak about Meridian and the abuse that I suffered in their hands so many years. It was hard to speak and my voice was shaky, but I was finally allowed to use my voice that had been silenced for 3 years. Trying to reach anybody who would listen, whether it be Meridian or the Lakeshore Hospital Authority in the public. As I said last time, there's absolutely no actual real patient reviews to be found. When you try, they have you blocked, even on social media. Where are the real reviews from real patients like myself and other patients and clinicians that spoke up? Every video that we see with the CEO and upper management talking about how wonderful Meridian is, that they love their patients, they love their employees, but not once do you hear anything from real patients. It is because we have been silenced and now we are speaking. We may only be emotional shrapnel in Don's eyes. But you know what? We are human beings. We have feelings, we have hearts, so we do exist. I'm here once again urging the board to please keep in consideration the things that were heard at the last Lakeshore Hospital Authority meeting regarding the treatment of patients and clinicians. Please do not forget their stories. that we told about the abuse that we suffered at the hands of Meridian Behavioral Health Care. This is only a few of the thousands of people in the surrounding communities that who have had horrible experiences with Meridian. Please, if you're going to give this hospital to Meridian Behavioral Health Care, please do some more research. Please talk to people in the community, real people who have been in the Lake City CSU. It is so horrible. They take your medicine away. They make you take medication that's not prescribed. You literally sit in a chair, a piece of wood for a bed with one blanket, freezing to death with a TV in a small space. Nobody speaks to you or engages with you, what's going on. You come in with the clothes you have on your back, not even a strip shirt, search or pat down. People allowing God knows what to enter this facility. The conditions are old and falling apart, and they're full of bugs and rat feces. I could go on and on, but I'll stop here. I'm just urging you, please do not forget the voices you heard, and the more voices you will hear if this hospital is gifted to Meridian. If this happens, it will not positively impact this community and surrounding areas. It will do the opposite, leaving more people in crisis without anyone to reach. The individuals of this community deserve better, and I hope the board would reconsider and look into other options that do exist but haven't been recognized until now. Or go ahead and just demolish them. Thank you.
Mr. Lang.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be here tonight. I'd like to thank the hospital authority attorney for that explanation. The first time since I've been covering the authority since 2006. And since SB 50 was passed, I guess it's around 2013, that somebody made an explanation that wasn't designed to inhibit public comment. That this outfit from the Mr. Beal College, still is in the Neanderthal world, is one of the few outfits that was left that didn't allow public comment after a motion was made and something actually went on the agenda. Nobody does that anymore except people that don't want to hear what the public has to say. I'm a little confused about these other things. I don't have any idea what the possible action is. When people fill out write agenda forms, they say what the possible actions are, so people understand the pendency of issues for their representatives. This authority has never done that. It's kind of surprising because Mr. Williams clearly is a proponent of public records going way back. To go on with the Lakeshore Hospital Authority gifting of the vacated hospital to Meridian. As I mentioned last time, I'm opposed to that. I'm not going to repeat all the reasons. You heard Ms. Stevens speak tonight. Anybody recalls what she said last time? There would be no reason to give Meridian the hospital. I got a feeling looking at this agenda that they don't want the hospital based on the reverter clause and maybe other reasons. That's an easy way out for Meridian. If you look at Meridian propaganda on the internet and on Facebook, you never, excuse me, you never see any client, any patient they may have had speaking about the positive things that Meridian does. Clearly, there must be somebody out there with a $54 million budget and the thousands of patients clients that go in and out through those doors, that you could find someone to say something good about Meridian. And I would also respectfully ask this board to consider that the last two times, I know what's going on here tonight, but the last two times that Meridian was on the agenda, the CEO was not here to talk up for Meridian. If this was that important to Meridian, you would think they would have been here. And I would just like this board to respectfully consider this. This is not a political football, this building over there. Something that some inside group of players decides to give to another group of political players, which Meridian clearly is. If you just bear with me for 1 second, I'm done. Which Meridian clearly is. The fact that Mr. Savoy couldn't come here to the last meeting, when he told me, I'm not talking out of school, that he was going to show up to these meetings to make sure Meridian was covered at these meetings, clearly shows that they do not have the best interests of, number one, this community, number two, their clients. And number three, I don't even know about if they have the best interest of Meridian. Any port in a storm is good unless it's Meridian. There's people working on alternatives, Mr. Chairman. I respectfully request that you turn down Meridian's request in the hospital based on the testimony you've heard the last few times. And none from Meridian, other than the people that are making the big bucks from Meridian. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, since I was addressed in that comment, I'd like to make a statement if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I just want to apologize to my fellow board members for all the meetings that I allowed Mr. Lilker to stand back up and speak on items after public comments. Because apparently that had been forgotten about. So I just want to apologize to everybody up here tonight for that. You talk. I need to state it again.
What do you want?
The comment online, as the gentleman, were you able to
I can request him unmute, or you can do one.
just unmute? And it's the one on the bottom of the MH
Yeah.
logo?
Yeah. I'll
Do-
ask him.
Okay. Do I just,
Okay, he's on.
Can you hear me?
yes, sir.
Okay, my name is Joseph Sherrill, and I started Gainesville Peer Support, a nonprofit corporation, back in 2019, which was after the Peer Support Coalition had a meeting at Meridian Behavioral Health Care about starting up a peer support network. And most of the peer support community here in Gainesville work at Meridian. My private HIPAA documented history of my psychological record got released into this peer support community. Since then, since 2019 till now, it's been outright denial of services. Meridian Behavioral Healthcare has nowhere on the internet that you can enter in comments. So what I have done, they have violated me so severe that I have taken the responsibility of opening Meridian Behavioral Healthcare social media group on LinkedIn. And I have ownership of it now. And it is a place where everybody's going to speak up. And I urge, if you think about letting this hospital go over to Meridian, please ask yourself, are the patients in this hospital going to be treated like what you see in this LinkedIn social media group called Meridian Behavioral Healthcare? They have placed a bomb charge on me that's false. They say the person that associated with me had long dealings with me in their work. I got my psychological record. Where's this person show up in the record? I went the other day for a BIOS scheduled appointment. I got in there, I checked in, I even signed the check-in board, and they hit me with a trespass. Couldn't they have done that before I even signed in? You know, now I can't show up there for a year. But I urge you, all these videos that I've recorded, all this audio track that I've recorded from within Meridian Behavioral Healthcare buildings, plus my psychological record, is all posted on Meridian Behavioral Healthcare LinkedIn social media group. And I urge you to take a look at that and review those audio recordings and everything. I'm constantly publishing more. There's a lot more to come. They're breaking into my computers with their artificial intelligence chat GPT machine, and they're making my life hell. And if you can't see, I'm camping out. I'm a half mile from Meridian's place right now. My doctor put in 2 homeless vouchers, and when I carried them up to the homeless part of Meridian, they're looking at me like, what do you want us to do with that? So I urge you, please consider the material and the mental health violations has gone on since 2019 till now. Do you want people in that hospital to be treated like that? Do you want their private health information, PHI, do you want them to be exported and have HIPAA violations? They're taking $5,000 hit for not having the documentation, when in all reality, the content within the documentation they say they don't have is real serious trouble for them. That's serious charges. And that they have made an agreement with ACA that they are going to improve their history and reduce violations. And I recommend that Don Savoy gets out on his social media group called Meridian Behavioral Health Care, the social media group on LinkedIn. He needs to show up there and speak up, and give us some answers, because you can't enter in any, you can't get to them. They blocked my cell phone, whole 9 yards, man. That's all I got to say. Keep it away from Meridian.
Mr. Sherrill,
Keep
I
it away
appreciate
from,
it. I appreciate
all right,
your
keep
comments,
it away from Meridian. They
Yes,
are,
sir.
they will destroy your life.
sir. We appreciate your comments, sir.
View the material on LinkedIn.
Okay. And I believe we have exhausted our public comment section. Oh,
Am I allowed to say something?
are we? Sorry, I'm new here. Are we allowed to accept public comments?
I would out of abundance of caution, but next time you need to sign
Yeah.
up so that they can control it.
Yeah, come on up
Yep.
Okay.
and just state your name, sir. I don't have it.
Garrett Morrison is here today, and I'm coming here on Kingdom Business. You guys have heard our proposal, you've heard what we've the vision that we have. Hopefully you didn't just consider it as being cute or as something that seems to be something that could be really, really nice, but actually considered it, thought about it, and realized that like something like Meridian, you only get to the surface, and seeing that these are testimonies from real people that have had real experiences. You know, these aren't just paid people just speaking these things. These are people that have really been through there. Maybe some of us haven't been in that position where we've had to go to Meridian. I haven't, but I've had family members, and I know people who have. I've seen have to get picked up from there. And there is a common core where they don't enjoy their time there, and I see it doesn't really actually deal with the root issue. If anything, it just kind of medicates it and it just leaves it dormant. But just coming here to let you guys know, and just praying and hoping and asking that you guys really consider the best interest of the people, whether that be in the spiritual well-being, the emotional well-being, and the physical well-being. And you know, I come representing the Lord coming on Kingdom Business. And just want to let you know the name has moved from Remnant to Everlasting Effect Kingdom Come. And we're believing that God really wants to do a great work in this community. And we see that hospital as a pinnacle, as a hotspot in which God can really do some great things in this city. And hopefully you can see that and not just see a young man, or you can see that not just see a religious man, but you can actually look at that and see into it and not just think this is just something cute. I come here because I believe and I know there's a vision, and I know that God is wanting to do some great things in this city. I know he does. I know there's people on this board who believe that as well. So I challenge you in the integrity of how you do your job, that you don't just take God out of it, but you do it going forth with knowing that, hey, one day, you know, did I make the decision that was best, and that was in the best interest of the city and of the people here. I'm not saying this or that, but consider this, that will be a monumental move, a major play in this city, whatever happens with that hospital building. And if you can live with yourselves and consider that the decision was made with the best interest in mind, then go for that. But just letting you know that we're still here, we're still waiting, and we are very well just active, and you just don't forget about us, okay? So just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Okay. We believe we've exhausted public comments. I'm going to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to some new business. Second item here, agreement for purchase and sale of real property. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the ongoing discussion about efforts to transfer the Lakeshore Hospital to Meridian Behavioral Health Care. And with that, let me turn it over to Todd to give the latest update.
Yeah, we have met with the Masons. As you recall, at the last meeting, we had essentially two outstanding issues. The length of our reverter clause, we're talking about two reverters, the authority and the Masons. So the length of the authority's reverter clause, that was voted on, and then it would be perpetual based on that vote. So the second issue involved meeting with the Masons. They were gracious to meet with us. We discussed whether there was any additional properties that may have a reverter clause attached to it. I was unable to identify any additional property from what the deeds that they had. We had those in our previous title commitment. And then the second part of the discussion was, would they be willing to deal with the authority in working out some deal whereby they would relinquish their reverter clause? And essentially where it stands now, their response was to make them an offer to relinquish their reverter clause. From our standpoint, it's on block 111 as one of the original plats of the city of Lake City. Mr. Williams and I requested, and they seemed to agree that any offer would also encompass any other reverter clauses that we may not be aware of. We haven't identified any, title companies have not identified any, but it would be sort of in the nature of a quitclaim deed. Whatever reverters you have on any property you've given to the authority would be released pursuant to whatever deal could be negotiated. So that seems to be the last impediment as far as I think when Mr. Savoy was online last time, I think he talked about the length of the reverter clause and having some resolution to the Mason reverter issue. And so the resolution to the Mason reverter issue seems to be the last outstanding issue. So I would need guidance from the trustees as to how to proceed at this point with negotiating, if so desired, with the Masons to request a release of their reverter.
You, the board, are we gonna release Mr. Todd to negotiate?
Oh,
And I have an opinion.
I'm not against doing that. However, I guess I don't understand. I feel like we're a step ahead. Are we gonna, if we can negotiate with the Masons to relinquish that reverter clause, what are we doing with the building? I think we have to figure that out first before we go on. I mean, there's no point in doing that I'm sure it'll come up at some point, but if Meridian's going to get the building, maybe part of that negotiation needs to be with Meridian as well to see how much they would be willing to kick in and pay for whatever that offer number is. So I think we've got to first figure out, are we giving this building to Meridian or not?
Great.
I don't think we should have to pay anything. Because it's ours as long as we have the building.
Well, if we don't give it to Meridian, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but if we don't give the building to Meridian
And we demolish it.
The
land is still ours because theoretically we could put another building there.
Could we put a hospital there? Isn't that what the reverter clause says? It's got to be a hospital.
But if the land's vacant, it's not costing anybody any money.
But it would revert.
And it would revert, yeah. But if it is a medical facility of some kind, I doubt very seriously if the Masons would want it reverted.
Oh, is that what it's based on, what their wants are, or is it based on what it is? It's based on the letter of the law. If the building's demolished, does not property not immediately go?
They would have the option to determine their intent
Ah.
on their own. So yes, they could say, as long as you're not turning it into to something other than healthcare, we're on standby. So really, at some point, the ball becomes in their court as to whether, and I was looking for it real quick here. It says that should the time come in the future when the property herein conveyed will no longer be able to serve the original hospital purpose or should be abandoned, the said property shall revert to its former owner, Lake City Lodge number 27 F and AM, or in its absence to the Grand Lodge of the state of Florida F and AM. So really, from that it would be up to them to notify us as to whether they thought the reverter clause has now become active and want the property back.
Yeah.
Then we would have to address that issue, as a board. But again, my marching orders kind of were to see, are they even interested in working with us,
Right.
so to speak, on having that reverter clause issue resolved? And they indicated that they were, and the response was, please make us an offer and we'll take it to our membership for review.
For what it's worth, my opinion would be that if we were giving the hospital away, that would, the value of that gift would carry the day, in terms of us coming out of pocket to cure the issue.
So Meridian would have to come up with money then.
Yeah, but I mean, for what my understanding of the property is, I don't think they're talking about a great deal. I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't seen the value of the.
I have heard some gossip because there are two other pieces of property involved.
I thought
There's
Mr.
three
Keenan said there was
pieces.
only one piece of property with a reverter clause on it.
That has the reverter clause,
Right.
but some people are wondering if there isn't something somewhere. I don't know.
I think the time has come and gone for them to produce some
No, because
information
they
to Mr.
did not care about it until the last 2 months.
Well, all I can say is the title
Yeah.
commitment that we obtained identified the reverter on block 111. I have conferred with Meridian's attorneys. They agree that that is the only piece of property that has a reverter clause connected to it. There is another deed that describes 3 parcels of real property, parcel 1, parcel 2, parcel 3. That deed does not have a reverter clause contained within it. So my opinion, shared by others, is that the only piece of property subject to the reverter clause that we are aware of on the properties examined by title insurance company, is block 111 at whatever and however that ends up being surveyed and described. So city block about 210 by 210. Back when it was block 111.
And where is that located?
Best we can tell, it's going to be somewhere in the front parking lot.
It's to the north of the hospital.
Yeah.
Yep.
Between Franklin and Leon.
Yes. It sits, and we were looking, I was looking Church Street. If you go by the old street names, it's between Leon, Franklin, and what was the third?
Church to the west.
Church to the west. North is
Leon.
Leon, and then
Franklin to the
Franklin
south.
to the south.
So I mean, we're talking about an acre of property.
More or less. I think I had 210 to 44,000, yeah, right there. So it's,
But again, before we start talking pricing, we're wasting our time. Are we gonna give the building to Meridian or not? I mean, that's what we have to decide, in my opinion, before we continue spending money on attorneys and financial advisors and staff hours.
yeah, I would agree. If we're gonna demolish the building, then let the revert clause go through.
Right.
No sense in spending taxpayer dollars to do that.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm understanding you to say, Brandon, is you want to know that if this is cleared up, they will accept it?
That they'll accept it and that we'll give it.
Okay, well, now, we did tell them, based on your vote from the last meeting, it would have to be a permanent perpetual reverter from the authority. That was not to be, there was nothing we could do about it. You voted on it. And we did not hear that that was a deal killer, at least I did not. So,
And so far, I have not been advised that.
and then the second thing I heard, and Todd, you please jump in if you disagree. But I thought it was pretty clear in my conversations with the representatives of the Masonic Lodge that they wanted to deal on the issue with the trustees, not with Meridian. They don't know Meridian. Meridian is in Gainesville. They don't know any of those people. They're local. They know you. They said that they wanted the issue to be resolved with you, no matter what you decided to do. So I feel like I need to pass that on because I certainly got that opinion.
I don't have a problem with that, but if we agree that this is what we're gonna do, and we know that we are, then we know that the reverter clause is an issue that we have to deal with, and then we can discuss with Meridian. I mean, I have no problem with us.
Meridian indicated if this is clear, they'll take it.
We are laboring under the opinion that when they accepted the perpetual easement, yes.
Yeah.
But can I produce a letter or what have you? No.
And I have not been advised that, for lack of a better way to put it, their board has accepted that. They have been relayed that information. We have not received any negative feedback. So again, the two issues that were out there that they had requested action on behalf of this board was they requested the 30-year reverter. That's been resolved. And they would like to have had us, or would like to have us resolve the Mason reverter issue so that the title is clear.
When you say they want us to resolve it, does that mean that we have to pay for it, or that they would also be willing to kick something if we have to pay
That would
something?
be part of the negotiation process. I would just need some marching orders as to how to proceed to take the next step with the Masons. We know they're willing to listen. Now we have to formulate some plan within which to present to them. Whether that be us, Meridian, or a combination, we would just probably be the ones to.
I've got no problem with us being the middleman and dealing with it, but if we say that, okay, hey, here's an offer of $10,000 for this acre of land, is Meridian willing to pay for that, or is that something we're gonna have to put up? But again, before we even get there, are we giving the building to Meridian? Otherwise, we're sitting here. I could be at home watching. Well, it's Monday. Football's coming on pretty soon. Yeah, there's.
Maybe I'm confused. If this was not an issue, could they take ownership right now?
If y'all voted to adopt the proposed agreement that we have to fill in, the two things to fill in are the exact parcels of real property that go with the hospital building itself, and any personal property they would like to lay claim to. Probably would need to. I'll work with Mr. Williams, would probably advise them that if it looks like we're continuing to move forward, try to resolve the Mason issue. At the same time, we go ahead and give them an opportunity to go ahead and give us an idea if there is any personal property they want. If not, then probably next meeting we can put on the agenda deal with that as surplus or something of that nature, so that that's not hanging out there. That won't kill the deal. The deal is for the hospital and enough land for parking, I guess. The personal property can be worked out, but we don't, again, won't just keep things hanging.
I've got no problem with us dealing with the Masons, but again, I don't know that I want to continue putting money behind it. If we're gonna do that, we're gonna have conversations. No offense, Mr. Kennon, but if we're paying you, it's your hourly rate to have these conversations, and then we come back next month and vote not to give the building away. I mean, I hope you have a good Christmas, but not at the taxpayer's expense. So what kind of motion do we need to move forward? Can I make a motion that we give the building to Meridian? After this one issue is resolved?
You can do it contingent on, resolving the Mason issue. If you can't resolve the Mason issue, it may be you offer the building to them with that parcel as is, and then that's, you know, they don't want that to happen. The Masons, obviously, they want to, like I say, deal locally to try to.
Sure.
I think they probably want to have this issue resolved too. I kind of got that impression, so it's not continuing to hang out.
And I have no problem with us doing it, but again, I just don't want to, if we're not going to do it and there's no point.
Yeah, it seems like the, I mean, we've made several revisions to the contract for purchase. The fill in the blanks are the exact parcel numbers that'll go along with the 4-story hospital building. And the personal property issue, I'm confident we can carve out the personal property issue to be resolved later. I haven't been notified or even implicated that that's a deal breaker. So really the inclusion of the final parcels that the authority's willing to let go with the 4-story building, and whether block 111 is resolved as far as a termination of the reverter clause with the Masons, or if it's offered to Meridian as is. And then obviously if the deal with Meridian would not work out, we still have to deal with the Masons potentially, how they react, I don't know. All I can go on is what was the result of our meeting, and that was to make us an offer.
Gotcha. Ms. Chansey. Comments?
I haven't changed my stance.
That being,
Running the meeting.
I do not prefer Meridian to have the building, but that's.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we contingent upon any and all reverters getting the cart ahead of the horse, without getting the cart ahead of the horse, that tonight, I agree with Mr. Beal, that we at least make a decision regarding Meridian, so we can at least take that off of the agenda. The agenda item actually states agreement for the purchase and sale of real property, parentheses, Lakeshore Hospital building, close parentheses, from Lakeshore Hospital Authority to Meridian Behavioral Health. I think we need to decide on that tonight before we go any further with any other negotiations through Mr. Kennon, Mr. Powell, Mr. Williams, so we can cease and desist or continue, one or the other. I know that's a long-winded motion, but that's my motion.
I second it.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to deed.
Basically, the motion is to give you and Mr. Williams, and Mr. Powell, the authorization to let them know that this board is in agreement to work out and dot all i's and cross all t's regarding Lakeshore Hospital. But we are willing to move forward by, as the agenda item says, deeding, Purchase or sale of real property, Lakeshore Hospital building, period. That's my motion.
That's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So there is a motion on the floor and a second.
I'd like
Sorry. Yes, sir.
some discussion on that motion too, if you please, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
I have never heard anything about a sale.
I think that's just the legal
That,
term.
that's the way the contract
Ah,
worded.
yeah, but everybody that has put time and effort into this, they're gonna see sale. Well, did they get any money? It is not a purchase and sale in the context that most people understand purchase and sale. It is a gifting. And there's a whole different ballgame there. Now, that's just from the way it's written. Secondly, I stand by my disagreement on this.
I want to just say that, you know, I believe it was January, it may have been the end of last year. When we went through it and Meridian came back and said that they, without the hospital authority giving the building and putting money into the building to remodel it and get it up to standards, Meridian was the one that came back and said, we'll take it and we'll invest, I believe it's $15 million, what they put up, 10 million, $15 million.
Somewhere in that area.
We went through it, and then finally, just a few months ago, this board agreed to move forward with this contract. And since then, we have spent taxpayer dollars paying the attorneys, paying Mr. Powell, Mr. Williams to get this contract. I understand it says an agreement for the purchase and sale, and it is an agreement for the purchase and sale at $0. I just understand that isn't a legal term, but we've talked about it for a year now. We've gotten everything done that we're supposed to get done. We've paid attorneys, we've paid people, you know, Meridian's paid their attorneys to do all the title searches. This board agreed to move forward with gifting the building to Meridian just a few months ago. And I'm with Mr. Kennedy. I think it's time that we do what we said we were going to do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I want to take public comments. I made a motion.
That was on there's backup material for that.
Yeah, you have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. So if there's any public comment on that particular motion, you're required to.
Yeah, I think that's what I heard over the phone. Are there any public comments?
As Brandon said, this has been kicked down the road too long. Something needs to be done. And of course, there's concerns of those who feel they had improper treatment and have basically been blacklisted, can't voice those concerns. I have concerns for those, but people that have had successful treatment from mental health are not going to come out and say, hey, Meridian did be really good, because there's that stigma of admitting to the general public that you've had some mental health issues. And whether it be somebody complaining about poor service at Culver's or Red Lobster, negative comments flourish. Positive comments don't really come out very well. And I think it's time for you guys to make that decision, even though Lori, Ms. Chauncey, was never in agreement. You know, this board could get sued because nothing was stopped. You know, they never wanted to lease this place. They wanted to own it. And I think you guys should stand up, give it away. And if there's issues with those who've been underserved, not served properly, maybe they need to have a work site group here with Mr. Savoy saying this is why we were, you know, treated wrongly, to get him to come here and address these people and other people. Thank you.
We'll do, it's just,
All right, thank you.
Promise myself I would never have a comment about the building issue, but I just broke my promise to myself. It really is a question. Does the reverter clause go with the offer of gifting the building, the Meridian?
Yes,
The perpetual reverter clause.
Yeah,
Yes.
perpetual
Yes.
reverter clause is
Yes.
part of the gift.
Yes.
yes, sir.
yes,
Yes,
Good.
forever and ever, amen.
Oh, yeah, one. What I thought I heard at the last meeting was you all have made more or less your final offer, except for filling in some blanks. And that offer was, we'll gift it to you, but there's a perpetual reverter clause. And we want to know by this meeting if you accept that. And you haven't heard anything from Meridian about, not from its board of directors who have the authority, only authority to make that decision. It seems to me like it's time to draw a line in the sand. You've made an offer of gifting with a perpetual reverter clause, very clear. And only a few things were left, that probably weren't deal killers, but you haven't heard any response from the board of directors of Meridian as to whether they will accept your gift.
That was a couple meetings ago. Am I correct? That was a couple meetings ago and the,
Yeah, I think Mr. Kennan.
Yeah, their board met and Mr. Savoy indicated that the two outstanding issues addressed by their board was we'd like to have a limitation on the authority's reverter clause, and they would like to have the Mason reverter issue resolved. I took that to mean released from any properties to be part of the gift. That was the result of their board action.
go ahead, Stu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Kennan. Couple of things. You look at your monitor up there, Mr. Chairman, you don't see anybody from Meridian, you look at it this minute, do you? Yes, you didn't, I didn't 30 seconds ago. There's nobody from Meridian even auditing this meeting. I don't know why that would be. With an event so large, Meridian is willing to invest millions, and nobody from Meridian is watching this building. I do have another question at the last meeting. This is a question. Mr. Beal mentioned that he had, not in these words, but it's actually what he had, ex parte communication with the people that want to buy.
how's that?
For the
Take
gift.
communication?
Mr. Chairman,
Listen,
thank you.
Well, you mentioned my name. You shouldn't address a single member.
That last meeting, Mr. Beal mentioned
mhm.
that he had ostensibly ex parte communications.
I never said
With,
that.
he said he was just with the president of Meridian on an item that this hospital authority is looking to gift. My question for you this evening is, has Mr. Beal or any other member of the board, not Mr. Williams, he can talk to anybody he wants, has communicated with anybody from Meridian about the potential sale of this building? And I would appreciate that when I get done, you ask, because that's an important thing. Board members shouldn't be talking to the people that are gonna get it unless they say that they're gonna get it. Florida statutes pretty much say that, particularly in land use deals. So if you were to go to court, and this is clearly a land use issue and ex parte communication, if this was the zoning board, this would have to be revealed or it would be illegal. That's the first thing. You've mentioned personal property issues. I don't know what the personal property is. I understand that this board, all of you folks are appointed by the governor. whether or not you represent the people of this county is a question of debate. Because the governor is the one that appoints you, the governor can remove you, and the governor has kept this illegally constituted board going. But I don't know what the personal property is. As a resident, a taxpayer of Columbia County, besides the publisher of the Columbia County Observer, I'm opposed to approving any agreement until I know what's in the agreement. This board has wasted millions over the last couple of years, keeping an empty building going, which obviously had to be done, and tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees. And I don't feel comfortable, and I don't know why any taxpayer would, of giving you a blank piece of paper. The city is involved in that kind of thing then with the servants agreement, Mr. Dial. Blank things do not work well when taxpayer money is involved. So, and the one thing, and this is my final thing, Mr. Chairman, if you indulge me, I haven't heard one board member, other than Ms. Chancey, thank you very much, mention the quality of care that goes on at Meridian. This is totally ignored by this board. I understand there's board members here that are politically involved. And that's the nature of Columbia County and many small communities across America. But the primary reason to give Meridian gift is $0. If you give somebody something for nothing, I don't think you can say you're charging them for it. It's not a sale, it's a gift.
Sure.
That's ridiculous.
That's
Is that they need to be here. Ex parte communication needs to be.
All right. Thank you,
Sure.
Stu. Thank you, Stu.
And that.
Stu.
And that.
Stu.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I make a statement?
I would appreciate it.
Mr. Kennan, can you tell me if there's anything pretty much against the law about me having a conversation after the CEO of Meridian emailed me thinking that I was still the chairman and to let him know that I was not the chairman? As far as I know, I don't see Mr. Savoy up here making any decisions for this board. So is there any?
This is not a quasi judicial proceeding, so the ex parte communication.
There's pretty much nothing legal about me.
As long as whoever you're communicating with doesn't then communicate with another member of the board about the same topic, but this is not a quasi judicial process.
That's pretty much legal.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I don't know if that was a legal term, pretty much or not. Also, I would like to state that ultimately, I believe it's this board's responsibility to manage the taxpayer funds and the buildings. We're not going to have a hand in how Meridian operates their business. I understand and I respect the people that have spoken to us over the past 2 meetings about their experiences, and I do appreciate that. However, my concern is managing the taxpayer funds and the buildings. And I want to remind everybody, we're paying how many thousands of dollars a month, Dale, to maintain that building? Approximately $40,000 a month of taxpayer money, and that is our responsibility. That's all I have to say.
Motion is
I made the motion and I could talk for hours on it, but I'd like to hear Ms. Chauncey's views first before I close. About the motion.
I've gone round and round. Repeat the motion, please.
Wow.
Sonia?
To give the building.
It's a motion to be
I can
clear.
make it even briefer if I need to.
As I understand it, the motion is that contingent on resolving
Any and all issues.
the issues outstanding, which would include the Mason reverter clause.
Correct.
If that is resolved, then the authority has agreed with the terms and conditions agreed upon thus far in the contract to gift the property, right now being the 4-story hospital building, to Meridian.
Correct. Thank you, sir.
Okay, just the hospital and the property. Is that correct?
That's what's on the floor is to deed It's the hospital and whatever parcels yet to be determined that would need to go with
See
it.
that,
Or we could make a motion tonight, or I guess the motion, if I'm, maybe Mr. Kennedy can interpret it, is to give them the hospital building.
And whatever,
and-
in the
and-
parking that they had requested over a year ago.
The one parking lot that's
Yeah, the
adjacent,
Adjacent
adjacent to the
parking. All
building.
these other lots that we currently have,
Can we
no,
make-
that was not even in the
Kennedy,
discussion.
can you make that part of the motion that it would be the hospital building and the adjacent parking?
Yes,
lot?
sir, I'll be glad to amend my motion to state that if Mr. Beal will second.
My second is amended, I second that amended motion.
Ms. Johnson, do you have any comment?
I would consider it then. Consider. I would not necessarily agree with it. Now, but they do have a reverter clause, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Until the end
Our
of time.
position is that
Yeah,
if they accept it, they accept it with a perpetual reverter clause. That
Okay,
if it's no longer used for mental health care and treatment, it would revert back to the authority.
300 years.
They had requested a 30-year, that was voted
yeah,
down.
right, right.
And that's also after we resolved the issue with the Masons too.
I would consider it.
Well, with the motion's on the table tonight,
Hmm?
the motion is on the table tonight.
To do it.
Yes,
To agree to it,
You don't have the answers to everything. How can you
We're
agree to
doing it
something?
contingent upon,
contingent upon all of these answers, yes.
Well, yeah, you can get an answer for all that.
Well, I think.
But what if I don't agree with them?
No, but I think if Mr. Kennan comes back and says, here is a legal document, which the Masons, whatever the number of Mason Lodge is here in Lake City, that they sign and agree and 100% for this. And if the Meridian comes back and says, we are 100% in agreement of the reversion clause and perpetuity, then what else do we have to resolve, Mr. Kennan?
Well, and at the next meeting, I would consider it.
At the next meeting?
Yeah. If you have those answers. I'm not accustomed to doing something in the blind.
it's not.
Well, no, it's not.
But we
Well,
are,
it is until you've got an answer.
Miss Chancey, we're paying our attorneys and staff.
I understand that,
We-
but do we have answers? No.
No, but if we get.
We
them
have
2
already
weeks, then
said
it's
that
done.
our attorney's gonna go seek the answers.
And if he comes back and if he says the Masons say no and Meridian says no,
Ms.
then
Chancey,
yeah. I agree.
basically-
I will say this, Ms. Chancey, the Masons have indicated that obviously there sounds like there is an acceptable number that they have in mind. And we have to reach that number.
And basically, this is
Do
not,
we have to pay it or do they? That's another
The
thing.
board has to determine.
The board has to determine that. That's why we're sending Mr. Kennan along to see Meridian.
And we can make that motion after we complete this motion. And giving him and Mr. Williams and Mr.
I
Powell
want the answers before I will definitely say one way or another.
Wow.
I have not spent a lifetime just going by what may be. Anytime people in my life have done that, they've fallen in the pot. Not gonna do it. I want answers. When I get answers, I can agree to something.
Well.
And I
can-
believe you
and-
should
and-
seek the answers.
and-
That's what you're,
Ms. Chancey,
Got it.
this, what this is doing is determining whether or not we waste any more of Mr. Kennan's time and the taxpayers' dollars on Mr. Kennan's time. That's all this is doing. If there's no point, if we're not, at the end of the day, if we're not gonna give the building to Meridian, then let's not waste any more time and money on it.
I understand what you're saying, but it will depend on the answers.
Well,
He
then,
has to get the answers before you go either way with it.
Yes, but could I proffer just a thought? It will take us $120,000 to get to that answer, plus whatever we might have to come out of pocket. So I'm wondering if there's a bingo number.
If it comes out of pocket, are you all gonna vote for it?
What I'm saying is, if
I'm
we
not.
green lighted it
then it
now.
won't, then it won't
No, no,
pass.
just let me, if we green light it now and we don't come out of pocket the $120,000 to carry that behemoth for 60 days while we're figuring this out, is $120,000 the bingo number? Cause if I could write a check for 80, I'd do it, cause it's cheaper. And get it on down the road, get it off our burden, get it off our rolls. That's what I'm saying. The business guy to me is looking.
I I am not happy with it. I have been against this the whole time. I want the answers before we move forward. They have drugged their feet on giving us answers for the last year. And it's a very good point that they don't represent themselves at our meetings.
I think they've represented everything they have to represent. This is, it's black.
Yeah,
black-
but if you have a deal going and it's up in the air, don't you send somebody to the meeting?
Well,
Yeah, in
a
personal
solution may be that you could withdraw the motion, give me marching orders for 30, 45 days, but you gotta tell me what the authority I have from this board to deal with the Masons. They're gonna say yay or nay within that time frame, and then based on that decision, we go to Meridian and say, here's where we're at on the second and last issue.
And Mr. Ken and I will consider withdrawing my motion. And I respect everything you have said, but the reason why I made the motion, and I appreciate Ms. Chauncey's, your input on this, is because if we continue to waste another penny of taxpayers' dollars, and then we come back 45 days from now and say, no, I'd rather do it now. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
I agree, Ms. Chancey, you don't like the fact of knowing what the answers are, but we can at least get this one motion and then let me make some more motions to narrow down what we need to give him X, Y, and Z to go forward with, and those will be voted on too. But I think that we need to keep the horse from getting ahead of the cart. And that's why I made this motion to at least find out, do we want to give this property, that building, that parking lot to Meridian, or let's drop back and punt? That's my only reluctance to withdraw the motion. And I'd like to proceed with the motion.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Like a roll call, please, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Chancey?
No,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion fails.
Okay.
All right. So we need to give some sort of direction to. Are we going to give this direction to Mr. Kennedy? Does that require a motion?
I would say under these circumstances, yes, because you got to give me authority. Not necessarily maybe a specific dollar amount, but to at least the authority to try to determine a dollar amount. And whether Meridian would want to participate. Or you could give me a dollar amount tonight and go from there.
I don't still think the river clause being resolved is even an issue if it's a healthcare facility for the next 200, 300 years, or it comes back to us. I mean, if
I wish we had a Mason here that would accept it and tell us a number. Because if it's inside of a month's expenses, I think we know the answer.
I don't think it will be
for an acre of property.
downtown Lake City.
And
Yeah.
I'll give you my personal guarantee, it's under a month of operating expenses. I'm gonna pull up the property. I know it's not gonna be two, and that's what it's gonna take to find out. Is that a number? Out of curiosity, just pragmatic curiosity, is 160 the number? That's what it's gonna cost to find. I'm saying on a personal level, like I'm saying on a vote.
I have not heard a number. How's that?
I understand, but But I'm saying if we offered them 2 months of operating expenses to find out now, we would save 2 months of operating expenses.
I understand what you're saying. They have a meeting a week from now,
Okay,
I believe.
They indicated in the meeting with Todd and I that under their bylaws, that even once the officers believe that they have a number that's acceptable to them, they have to ballot their members by mail
That
Yes.
reverter clause say
Or
that
a
it had
meeting, they can do it in a meeting.
or have a meeting.
Did the reverter clause say that it went to the local chapter and the state chapter of it?
No,
Or- So
Yeah,
I,
the
I
local
think it was
chapter
worded so
folded.
that the local chapter had been disbanded, it would go to, I think what they refer to as the Grand Lodge.
I think they made that clear in the conversation that, you know, it would be a local decision, not a Grand Lodge decision.
And the only reason I have any information on this, 6 generations of my family were Masons, and my husband is a Mason. Okay?
Can we
So,
pause for 5 minutes while we change tapes? We'll make it 3. Undo. All right, and we're back. So we are back at that what I believe is a minor impasse here, discussing the reverter clause. And discussing the action with solution for lot 11.
it would probably take
block.
them until the end of January. Unless someone approached them this week. To come up with what they wanted to do. And I would hope they would be able to come up with it before the end of January. Which would take some relief off us.
Extra $40,000.
Do we, I mean, do we? I can poll and find out if we're interested.
Well, you need to have somebody needs to make a motion if you wish to proceed with negotiations with the Masons. That's where it sits.
Find out if we're actually gonna.
Sir?
There's 2 things that need to occur with that negotiation.
Right.
One is establish a price to satisfy the Masons and their reverter, and to determine who will pay that fee. Who will pay that?
Can't we just ask Mr. Williams to call and get a fee? and then see if it's something we can deal with.
I think they said to make them an offer, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's all
Actually,
all we
Ms.
can do is relay the information given to us, and that was to make us an offer.
Ms.
Nothing to
Johnson,
say we can't go back to them and say,
we
we need a number to, because we have to discuss this in a public meeting. Would y'all give us the number? And it may
Right.
be that they have to decide that number
we
next week.
did ask if they had a number, and they just basically said, make us an offer.
Yeah, they were kind of not prepared for the meeting as well as they thought they were.
Well,
Do you have a motion?
I have a motion that they be contacted, and we want to know the minimum amount that they would take. And we would need an answer before our next meeting. See what happens.
If they stick to their guns about us making an offer, then we go back to the February or March meeting.
That, or we can make them an offer. Let me rescind my motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that Mr. Williams call them and get an idea of how much they'd be willing to pay and bring it to our next meeting.
They'd be willing to
They'd
pay,
be willing to pay.
or
Or
Meridian,
how much they want.
or how, okay, so okay.
How much they would accept for,
Yeah,
for a release of the reversion on any and all properties deeded to Lakeshore by the Masons. That was part of that discussion, is we wanted to have a global settlement of anything and everything relative to that particular entity.
if I may, I don't want to mucky this up, but
Too late.
all right, let's say they give a number. Let's say the number is acceptable. There are still hurdles within the law itself you've got to clear. That number can't just be a number out of thin air. There has to be something that supports fair market value. And I think you can pay more than fair market value, but you have to justify why, and you have to go through extraordinary steps in doing so. But it's not like it is on the private side. There's still going to have to be some compliance issues that we must follow.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, I agree with everything you said, but what if we decided to declare the building surplus and donate it to the Masons? What?
that would get back at them.
Well, my first reaction is you probably can do that,
Right.
but that's really a Todd question.
That would take a little more than off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I would second that motion.
You wouldn't?
I would.
But I made my motion based on the fact that Mr. Williams is well aware of all the ins and outs, basically what he just told us.
All I was trying to do, Ms. Johnson, was trying to clean up your motion a little bit and also add to your motion, which I can't do, is that we are contemplating declaring the property surplus and giving it to them. If they can't give us a number quickly, then they will inherit
The
the
Masons.
problem.
Well, they would only inherit the property described, and they have to
Which
accept
is-
any gift.
Yeah.
We could give them back anytime they're block 111,
Right.
which takes care of. the
Perhaps,
reversion issue.
But I think that they kind of think that part of the building is on some of their property too. Am I mistaken?
They
Yeah.
think,
We don't believe it is.
they think that, but they haven't been able to produce anything that I've
Right,
understood.
so that's
through
why
Todd.
I'm thinking that we should go ahead and give it to them and let them resolve it.
Of course, if we gave it to him, we may have a shrine hospital here.
Good, great.
So you have a motion on the floor
Yes, we have a
for
motion.
Mr. Williams to, in essence, flip the conversation, and that is because we have to operate in the sunshine in the public. We are requesting, the board is requesting you give us a number, and we'll determine whether number one is acceptable, and two, if it is, if it's justifiable under the law. Does that sum it up?
Or, sorry, could we ask them if they would accept fair market value?
Mr. Williams can do that.
I would say just offer ask them if they have a number.
Yeah,
We can't say fair market.
We can say whatever we want. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
ask them, and then we can determine.
I thought they already asked that.
well, I think one of them wasn't one of them a property appraiser or something?
Yeah, fair market value being determined by a general appraisal.
Well, let's remember now, there was a full private appraisal done. It was just not certified to us and hasn't been shared with us.
And we don't know what property it entails.
Yes, right. So, you know, maybe it would help if if we can get an offer from the Masons, maybe I can persuade Meridian to release that. I'm sure they're not, because they don't want it public at this point. They have some luxuries we probably don't, but it would certainly help in this regard if we knew that number. And we could probably get the same appraisal recertified to the trustees at some future point if it was needed to meet legal compliance.
That's why I think Mr. Williams should take care of it.
I just work cheaper than Todd, that's all.
Well, I wasn't gonna say that.
Paying him anyway.
I wasn't gonna say that, but no. But we would have some kind of answer. Some kind of answer. I'm not saying that it'd be what we want by our next meeting.
Does it change your opinion about anything else? If it's 200 million? You know, I'm curious. That was just me.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I haven't gotten out of that pot yet.
So there's a motion.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
No,
Motion dies.
so who's gonna take care of it?
At this point, there's no action that's been instructed, so.
That's why I'm asking.
I'd like to move on to item number 3.
Can we move on to item number 3? All right, no action on item number 2. Correct. Okay.
Okay, ready, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right, item 3 contains 4 items. These were added for discussion, not really knowing how the second item would go. But the first of the 4 items deals with the budget that was approved for the Lakeshore Hospital campus buildings. And of course, we call that the Buildings Administration Fund in the budget. You will recall that you budgeted for 2 months worth of operational expenses for that fund because you wanted the right to come back and reevaluate it in a short time frame. You didn't want it to be funded for a full year without giving you an opportunity to come back and have some say. So what we did is we tried to give you an idea of where you currently stand. Just to remind you, you authorized $278,000 for the Lakeshore Hospital campus buildings and the services that we provide to keep those in an occupiable state. All of this is in your building administration fund. To date, you have spent $165,000. Now that's not just for the hospital, that's for all the buildings on campus. Now, in my memo, I stated that as of December 1st, your balance was $143,000. I caught that. That should be $113,000. You simply have to subtract the 165 from the 278. So I just hit the wrong key or something there, but you have 113,000 remaining in that fund. Insurance has been paid and a full year's worth of insurance was paid. So if you do not use that policy for the entire year, you are entitled to a refund of unearned premium. And so we've discussed those things in the past. So where you're at in simple terms is you can continue on, and we can continue to pay the expenses at the hospital and for the other buildings. But at some point, and hypothetically, let's just say it's another month, a decision is made, a final decision on the hospital, no matter what it may be, you're probably going to have to allocate some additional funds before the end of the fiscal year because of the other buildings on the campus. Now, I say probably because there are ways to cut expenses. You know, we have that facility under 24/7 continuous security, things of that nature, which is very expensive, and that's a large part of these operating expenses. Most people simply think of like energy costs, water, sewer, but that's not where the big money's being spent. So I just wanted to let you know where you're at. You can continue on with those operational expenses now because you do have monies in the budget that were placed there primarily for those other buildings. But at some point, you're going to run short before you get to the end of the fiscal year because we just did not budget a full annual amount for those buildings. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have regarding that.
Is there a way to separate the main hospital building from the other two?
We're trying, it's difficult. We have to go by meter numbers, and you have to kind of do percentages, like when you look at the mowing contract, for example, you got the whole campus. The only thing I really know to do is to try to estimate how much cuttings are actually part of the hospital, take that percentage off the total bill. It's not as easy as just saying these are all metered and billed for separately. These are all metered and billed for separately. And then there's the tough ones, like when it comes to security. You know, we have 24/7 coverage, and you're going to continue to have the same number of people if you do 24/7 coverage for the remaining buildings. So you're literally not going to save a dime there unless you just completely change the scope of that contract, which you can do.
I think if we quit securing the large 4-story building, a simple alarm system on the other two would probably be sufficient.
We can talk about any options such as that, but I was just to make it simple, if we continued on with the same level of service, the same level of care, then you'll end up having to put some money in here eventually. Or you'll have to cut some of that in order to balance the budget.
About less than 2 months, because in 2 months we spent 165.
That's right.
And we've got 113 left, so we got about 6 weeks.
And I think we've already calculated the utilities would be around 35 for both buildings remainder of the year, something like that.
Which meant 165 was the $75,000 insurance.
Right. Of course, you'll get a refund when that building, obviously.
But with 113, it should carry us out to February.
You should be able to get to February pretty easy. And then if you make significant changes in the level of service and the level of care that you're providing, you'll go a long way to finishing out the year because you're really just looking at utilities at that point.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that there's a 30-day notice on either part on the security.
I think that's correct. Yes, sir. Is there any questions I can answer regarding the building administration fund budget? I'll be glad to if you'll just let me know. Okay, this next item, we just briefly spoke about it, but unless Todd tells me differently, regardless of what option you pick here, whether this transfer goes through with Meridian, or whether you decide to do something else with the building. It's got to be declared surplus.
Correct.
And the process for that, when I spoke to Todd, I was a little foggy on, so I have asked Todd to make sure that he researches that, and I don't know that he's had time to do that yet. Are we required to hold a hearing, Todd?
Generally, I got it down to the tangible personal property. The county is, they are under a specific statute that does not apply to special taxing districts or municipalities. School boards have their own procedure. Our procedure on surplus property is essentially 274.05 Florida statutes. And so what my safer than sorry approach would be is that we put on the agenda at the next meeting, that we hold a public hearing for public comment on whether or not to surplus the actual 4-story building structure itself. Tangible personal property, I feel comfortable we could, as long as it's placed on the agenda, we can deal with that as needed. But I would say my recommendation, to be safer than sorry, because the statute doesn't deal specifically with real property, it just says property owned by, is that just on the next agenda that we place a public hearing to have the public allow their input on that particular 4-story hospital building.
And that one hearing will suffice for no matter what decision the trustees make,
We
correct?
have to make that, if we're going to get rid of it, either by gifting or demolishing, we have to make that decision first. So I think it'd be prudent to have that on the January meeting, and then we've got that one out of the way.
Okay. Item 3 deals with the inventory, and you just heard Todd mention the inventory. He feels a little more comfortable that the inventory does not require a public hearing. But what I'm going to do with your blessings is at the next meeting, we will have the inventory available to declare surplus, and I will have you some alternatives for disposing of that. That will be on your next agenda, and therefore you can choose, is this going to be an auction? Do you want to gift some of that? And by the way, we have yet to hear back from Department of Education on your donations to their request for medical equipment. I have talked to the college and I've asked them to try to follow up on our behalf, but I have yet to hear from them. So, we did what they requested, and I want you to know we have followed up, but I've not heard back from them. So don't exactly know how to get the stuff to them. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that. So again, on item 3, you'll see this again as far as the inventory goes. And there'll also be your options for the best way in which to dispose of it. Item 4 is just simply going to be carried forward to the next meeting because your decisions at the next meeting, I assume, will be final. I can kind of sense that whether we go through and have information that we can use where we can take a final vote to transfer this facility to Meridian, we will know, even though there was not an authorization given to negotiate. I think we'll know. And then secondly, if not, you can take whatever decisive action you wish to, up to and including disposal of the building. Should you choose to do that, we have previously done work in that regard towards that back in the early days. So a good bit of the work that would be required has already been completed on that option. You may recall we talked about we were going to have a pre-bid, and we had a statewide list of contractors and those kind of things. So we would just dust that off and we could move forward. So there is that. Is there any questions about the third new business item and the 4 individual things that we just discussed?
So in January, the declaring the hospital, the 4-story building as surplus property. And,
That'll be a public hearing,
but that'll be on the next agenda.
as a public hearing.
And the declaration of the inventory as surplus property will also be on the January agenda.
Yeah, in fact, now that I think about it, Todd, why can't you just do them both in the same public hearing?
Yeah,
You can.
And so I've got a question. Should we declare the parking lot surplus?
You're back to a Todd question.
You can, after a public hearing on real property, I think you can declare.
I just didn't know if
It's
that
in the
needed to
best
be,
interest and et cetera, et cetera.
I just didn't know if that needed to be included because it says 4-story building only. So I didn't know if the parking lot, in case we agreed to
If
give
we
it to
demo it-
Meridian. Or if
Well,
we-
given the nature of the discussion, my advice would be to keep, if you're gonna declare it surplus, keep it as a second component and not tie it to the building itself.
Yeah, the intent of saying 4-story building where it wouldn't get confused with the women's center, wouldn't get confused with the PT building. Not necessarily the property that goes with it, so we'll need to be more careful when we advertise it for a hearing.
yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm wanting to be clear on that. So if we do decide to demolish the building because of an impasse, I think what Mr. Dill's saying, do we have to advertise it now to say that we would also vote to declare it? Do we have to get it on the agenda now or for the next meeting in order to declare that property surplus?
Yeah, and what will happen is obviously if you do decide you go through with the transfer, the public hearing becomes a moot point at that, other than for the demolishing,
No.
other than for the transfer to Meridian.
It's gotta be declared surplus before we do anything, A or B. So we go ahead and have that done in January.
So we could declare it, we could declare the lot surplus as well in that same hearing.
If you wanted to.
No, I did declare all of our properties as surplus.
And dissolve ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm kind of confused. Mr. Williams, help me out. Were you talking about Meridian again? I thought we decided that a little while ago.
I'm gonna make another motion back on item 2 whenever we get.
Well, you didn't give a specific direction as to what to negotiate, but we do not have an item on the agenda where you vote to discontinue negotiating.
Okay, but we could go back to agenda item 2 then later in a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was simply moving it forward to the next meeting.
I got you. But on item number 3, on all of this here, let me stay on that. Don't get ahead of myself. Can we also, and maybe a Mr. Kennan question, in addition to advertising the public hearing regarding declaring it surplus property and requesting bids to demolish and dispose, can we also include any opportunities from any realtors in the United States that may come forward with a client that's willing to purchase the property
But before we do that,
within the next 45 days too?
would there,
I would have to look at the process for that, but I'm not saying yay or nay, but I would definitely, if instructed, I would look at the legalities of,
I just would like,
obviously it would have to be advertised. It wouldn't just be, except, somebody
couldn't-
offers $100,000, vote on the 100,000. It
You could
would have to go through.
we could put an RFP out
Yeah, it'd have to go through the.
through the worldwide net and say anybody in the United States that has a client that wants to purchase this property, please bring them to us.
Well, I'd have to look at it from the perspective of a private entity, and then we would need to make sure that we complied with the procurement statutes.
But before we do all that, would this board be willing to sell the building?
Well, that's what I heard earlier.
I don't
Mr.
want
Chauncey.
to get, I don't want to get 6 months down the road and a realtor come and say, hey, we're gonna give you
but
$50
that-
million for this building. And then we
Well,
find
I was
that-
gonna set a time limit on there too of 45 days while we are getting the RFPs to dispose, it coincide with a person,
So you got something to compare.
yeah, apples to oranges. And I had heard you mention no sale, so now I'm giving us an opportunity to sell it.
Hey, you look at what's offered and you go from there.
Well, and that's the reason why I asked Mr. Kennon if that was a possibility, and
I'll look into that and discuss it with Mr. Williams as to making sure we can comply with procurement statute, and then the other issue on selling to a private entity.
And then also my last comment, and I'll shut up. That I would like is that because we have advance notice, I would like to request that we have a special meeting scheduled for Monday, January 22nd. If we can't accomplish on the 8th, I would like to have it done by the 22nd.
Sounds good to me.
If the other board members can look at their calendars, please, we can go ahead and authorize staff to go ahead and advertise that. If we don't need the meeting, then we don't need it, but I'd like to go ahead and get it done now. Monday, January 22nd, 2024.
Let me say,
I'm working on it, hang on.
let me interject here.
Yes, ma'am.
If we sold the property
I'll get.
and we got
covered if
enough
I'm
money to
somewhere else.
put a birthing center in, I would be overjoyed.
But
We
that-
could sell the Lakeshore property.
We're getting the cart ahead of the horse on that right
Yeah,
now, which I'm.
I'm just telling you
I-
why I might be
Yep.
receptive to that. To put a birthing center in, it would be the only one within a 5-county area.
I'm a little bit too old to have to worry about that.
Well, so am I. But the statistics show
I agree. Yes, they're there.
everybody has to run to Gainesville. And if you live in Jasper, you might go to Valdosta instead.
All right, so we good with the 24th of the.
No, 22nd.
22nd.
I believe we're good. Any further comments on that? On this, do we have any motions? Floating around? that need to be made?
Haven't heard any.
No, we've given Mr. Kennan some more
I've got a note on the same thing about a realtor. I think that if we do it at the same timeline that we're getting bids to demolish the building.
we had a gentleman here 3 months ago that,
Yeah, Dylan Adams.
Mr. Adams, that said that he had people that were probably be interested. So I'd like to see what is there.
Why didn't they bring them?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can we go back to item number 2 for a moment?
I would almost insist. I hate leaving that one open.
I would like,
Let's
Me
move
too.
back, if we could, let's move back to item number 2.
I would like to make a motion that we inform the Masons that we would like to give the property back to them, revert the property back.
Second,
Motion in a second on the board. Any comments?
Is that gonna throw a kink in selling anything?
Oh, well. Probably so, but
I mean, if to leave it sit as it is, doesn't hurt anything right now,
but
other
then
than
it
to-
just, it's $40,000 a month. That's what it's hurting. I just think if we can't come to a consensus on what to do with the building, let's get that part out of here. Let's just tell the Masons, hey, we'll give it back to you. It's your parking lot now. And if it goes into the hospital, maybe they can help pay to demolish it.
I know there was a motion in a second. I am curious, Todd, does that mean that they're entertaining an offer just to release the reverter? They don't necessarily want to exercise. Am I crazy?
No, you're right.
Right?
But if we're not using it as a hospital anymore, it's supposed to revert. So I'd say we just give them notice that we're gonna give it back to them.
I think. How does that work?
I'd have to look at,
Can you force the reverter?
they could forfeit the reverter,
They could forfeit it, yeah. They could just as easily hand it right back.
but it'd be without the reverter.
Right.
That might save us $10,000.
Exactly.
So real quick, just one more thing, right? So if we put that on the next agenda, if we did the declaring it surplus, if we declared it surplus, wouldn't that have the same effect? Or no?
You know, I'd say we just go to them and let them know that that's what our intentions are. They want to, you know,
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You're saying,
Yeah,
no, we're out.
hey, we
It's
don't,
yours.
yeah.
Okay. I understand. Any
Roll.
comments? There is a motion. Like, briefly, please. Be nice.
Always nice.
I know, but try harder.
You can't try one. It will be so nice. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would suggest that to this motion you add. Apparently, time is of the essence. I don't know if anybody's spoken to Meridian about whether they're going to accept the perpetual reverter was. That we hear from them, just make this amend the motion, that we hear from them, their board should meet by then. That we should hear from them whether or not that's acceptable to have a perpetual reverter that goes along with that building. And that would dispense with that issue too. And that's my request, that it just be, the motion be amended to add that we hear from Meridian on whether or not they accept a perpetual reverter. Because as far as I know, nobody's heard. Is that correct?
I haven't.
Right, so nobody's heard. So I would respectfully ask that be added to the agenda. Thank you to that motion. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Lynn.
If I understand correctly, the hospital has not been a hospital in over 2 years. And it should, Lori reverted because it ceased to be a municipal hospital. So why even bother? Lori reverted to them.
They have to exercise it, to my understanding.
Yeah, they need to exercise it.
Or we can't exercise it, they have to exercise it.
It's their reverter clause.
Theirs.
But
Okay,
we can't just tell them, here you go.
It's almost like the title's clouded, right?
Yeah, as I understand it, it's to notify them that at this juncture, based on decisions made by the board, this board is not going to attempt to have the reverter clause released, and if you would like the property back, let us know.
is there a time element?
There's no time element.
Okay,
Can we put a time element on it?
I can do the research. I would recommend that we put as an agenda item that we can take action on or take off as needed to out of abundance of caution to add that parking lot on the next agenda as surplus property.
So this, maybe I'm not understanding. Let's just say that we're 20 years, we're in year 2044. And 20 years ago, we gave the building to Meridian. Meridian can come to us and say, hey, we're out of here. Here's your building, and we don't have to accept it.
Correct.
You would accept it, but yes, I mean, you've made you're in a public situation. You're a governmental entity, so you have the fiduciary responsibility to that. This organization can agree to enforce or not enforce.
Well, what I'm saying
So
is,
what I'm saying is that again, if you want to be safe and you want to keep things progressing, I would put it on the next agenda item to have the property, i.e. block 111, whatever that is, because we don't have it surveyed, block 11 to be surplus property. We can decide what to do with it. That may be that the board decide to deed it back to the Masons. They would have to accept the deed, and that would then terminate the reverter clause. I would have to look into the legalities of if they said, I'm not accepting the deed, we just want to hang around. At that point, it would probably take a quiet title suit to clear up the title to the property. And then they would be forced to come in and enforce their reverter or relinquish their reverter. But it's just not as easy as saying, here's your lot back.
well, I think we should let them know of our intentions in a way to give them the property back.
I do too.
And then if they don't, then we do the,
And at that point, they may come back and
Then you
say,
do a claim.
they may come back and say, well, wait a minute, how about we'll accept X number of dollars? At least you got it on the agenda
There you go.
next month, so that if you do get something, you have something to discuss.
And that's more likely to happen.
so my motion, and if you don't mind, I will amend my motion. My motion would be to notify the Masons that we intend to declare that block 111 as surplus property and give it back to them, deed it back over to the Masons. I would also like to add into that motion, we could do it separate. Thank you, Stu, that we let Meridian know, do they accept the perpetual reverter clause on the building? We would like to know that by January
Eight,
8th at 5:00 PM.
I'll second again. The motion and the amended motion.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there anything additional on number 2 that we're discussing? Making sure.
I think you can go to 3 now.
Okay.
Let's just get back to the 4 because we did
I think we did 3. I think we beat 3 to death.
we're done with that.
But do we need to talk to 4? Do we need to specifically address 4 with the surplus property?
I
Number
would say
4,
have it surplus first, and then that lets us then proceed with the RFP, because we're probably gonna have a lot of information between now and the second meeting.
But that doesn't require a motion. Or does it?
No, you don't have to take any action on number
Okay.
4.
going to have all these on the agenda, the next
Yes.
agenda.
Yes, that's all I wanted to make sure that it hit the agenda. We didn't have to put a motion together for it. Sorry, just double checking. Okay. So if we're good there, we can move on to the 4th item, discussion of possible action, Women's Center.
Okay, again, at our last meeting, some questions were asked about what type of activity are we seeing as it relates to the Women's Center. So I'm not going to include the items that have already been presented and vetted. But, and in no particular order, we'll start with Mr. Adams. You met him, he came. They have expressed an interest in all the buildings, not necessarily for the same tenant, but all the buildings. And in fact, there has been ongoing conversation ever since he came and presented. Right now, I owe him some floor plans requested by a prospective tenant. I do not know who that tenant is. So we're working on getting the information he's requested. Whether that turns into be a viable lead or not, too early to tell, but we're doing that. Also, where you won't forget, the 2-story Women's Center was the building that we were looking at putting a dental clinic. Now, the dental clinic was a joint venture with the public health unit. It was where Tim done gone.
Yeah.
It was one of the services that are listed in our health needs survey as being critical. We put it aside because we had competing interests for the space. And now there's been some significant changes in the players that were involved before. So while it still may be something that we need to consider, it obviously is going to require a kickstart at this point. But I wanted to make you, I just wanted you to remember that. Many of you have probably heard of Select Healthcare. They have facilities in Gainesville and others. The principal of Select has been in contact for a couple of months, not as a Select healthcare facility, but he has a proposal that he wants to present related to that building. And he may also now, depending on what happens with the hospital, have a proposal for that building. Not sure about that because that's really been off the table, and it's still off the table until you take a final action. But nice guy. I think he would like to come and maybe meet with each of you individually and to go over what it is he would like to do. I do not know specifically what the healthcare services he would provide would be. But I think you'll like him. I think he checks out very well. I certainly think he has the means and the capability to do things because Select, which he works for, is no small company. And then the other item, both Brandon and I met early on with HCA. They were interested in moving a primary care facility to that location. Of course, we have a number of primary care facilities throughout the county. We're not talking about an ambulatory primary care. We're just talking about what, you see elsewhere. But they did express an interest in bringing that service to that building. And so other than the ones that we've already vetted, decided we're not going to work, those are the things that remain. Any questions about any of those?
Any chance this guy from Select can talk to us individually before the next meeting?
I can find out. I'll certainly find out, Miss Lori. But, we haven't spoken of the PT building, but you're very much aware of what's going on with the PT building, I think. And, there's just a lot happening there. So, I think as soon as the lease expires with CARC, we're going to have to start placing some of that on the agenda where you can start making some decisions relative to that proposal.
That would be a good dental clinic area.
Yeah. There's good spaces for all of these uses. I'm told we're getting a new public health unit administrator. I assume that's true. I don't know, but obviously we're going to have to wait and see who it is in order to see what they're willing or want to do in that regard.
Thank you for that update, but I'm not interested in hearing any other proposals on the 4-story building. I think next month we need to decide to give it to Meridian or start the demolition process, getting bids. And I would be fine with, during the time we're getting bids, finding a realtor, and if Select or whoever's interested in buying it at that point, so be it. But I personally don't care to hear any other proposals on what to do with that building unless it's purchasing it from us, if we're not going to give it to Meridian.
Brandon, I got a question. If we decide to demolish the building, would you be open to hearing suggestions of somebody that maybe wanted to rent the property and put their own building on it?
I'd be open to it as long as we quit spending $40,000 a month to maintain it.
Because that's kind of what I get from Select.
Is that a medical facility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't they just come here and make a proposal to everybody?
They can.
Because
I'm tired of we've 18 months we've been talking about giving this building away. We're paying some big salaries.
They don't necessarily do that up front. They have to have somebody put out and solicit first that they're interested in doing this, that, and the other thing before they step forward.
Yes. I agree with everything Mr. Beal said just a little while ago, but I might want to add to each of us. I know y'all have been on here a heck of a lot longer than me, but when one of our people were speaking tonight on public comments, it kind of hit home to me, and this nice little portfolio that was given to me by you ladies, my first meeting, I appreciate it. And in the back, I print it out and I carry it to every meeting, and I do carry a little kind of thing here that's stapled. I took it off the website and it says our vision and our goals. And I have read this thing over and over and over, and all I ask is sometime during the holidays that all four of us again read our vision and our goals and keep that in mind when we are looking at any and all facilities that we currently have. And when these people do come, I agree with you, Mr. Deal. I don't want to hear any more proposals on the 4-story building, but on the other 2 buildings and any other properties that we own that people may want to buy and build on, I'd like to answer the question, how does that deal with us, this authority, in indigent health care? That's all.
Okay, may I make a comment? Our program entitles them to go these places, or we don't rent to them.
Exactly, and that's what I want each of us to keep
Okay.
in mind, yeah.
It is our program that, and we've lost a lot of participants. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cynthia. We've lost a lot of participants because we have not had availability of services.
And I agree with you, and I just
Okay.
want us to keep that vision and those
And-
goals in mind.
And I agree with you. That's what we're supposed to be about. We can't do that by giving everything away. We can't do that by taking select groups and saying they're the only ones that are going to be taken care of. It is our mission and our promise when we joined the board to take care of these people.
And that's why I carry this with me.
Yeah.
I've even highlighted it. But I sometimes wonder, we're not doing it.
We haven't done much in the last year.
That's the only comments I have. Mr. Chair.
Moving on to any unfinished business? The staff reports in the back of your pamphlets. Any final closing comments, or we just hear them?
You heard him.
I thought so. I was gonna say, Don, did you?
Just clarify.
No, I just want to say I'm gonna miss this young lady right here. I've known her for longer than just this building. I've known her for many, many years, and she's a wonderful person, and I'm gonna miss you. Period. You got my number. If not, will you get her from Sonia and call? And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Mr. Kenny? No. Oh, it's Cynthia, we just wanted to put on a big show for you for the last one.
Mr. Atkinson already left, but he made a very good point. I think that
He's back.
Mr. Atkinson, thank you for stating what you did earlier. I think he's absolutely right. I think we've talked about it a few times about, looking at how we're qualifying people for the programs. And I think sometime in the first quarter of 2024, I would propose that we schedule a workshop. I'll take
Another special meeting.
I want to do a workshop,
Bless your heart.
and I'd be willing to take a day off of my day job to come up here for a half a day or a whole day or whatever it takes for us to really kind of set some goals and priorities and look at our program and the what the standards and qualifications are for that program. We're in the 21st century, and we're kind of using a program that's a little outdated because of federal programs. So it's time that we look at that mission and goals of this authority and
Keep Sonia busy.
yeah.
And I think we ought to invite Cynthia as our guest because she's the expert on it.
Yes.
And Cynthia, thank you for your numerous years of selfless service to the authority and the clients of the authority. I hope you don't forget the second Monday of every month at 5:15 we have a meeting.
I'll get a chance to stand on the other side. And
There you go. There you go.
I get a chance to run your little-
Just like to say Merry
We
Christmas.
hold
to
you to
everybody.
3 minutes. No.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Well, I don't know if there's anything else I can say to or about Cynthia, my fourth grade classmate. But you know I'll miss you, Cynthia, and Merry Christmas.
Yes, if it wasn't for,
You guys.
if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have graduated, right?
I said that.
More.
I said that.
Everybody, and that means we're adjourned.
We're